Through the Fire by Darby West. My baby brother slept peacefully, his warm body curled into a ball behind the bend in my legs. My parents were arguing in the next room. I looked back at CJ, wondering how he could sleep through all the shouting. When their voices reached this peak, there was always a fight. I shut my eyes as I heard the lamp crash to the floor and someone falling against the wall. I put the pillow over my head and prayed for morning. It seemed to me that with the dawn of a new day, things that had happened the night before were forgotten. It didn't matter how many terrible names that they called each other at night. When morning would come, their laughter and lovemaking would awaken me. I thought there was not much that separated love and hate. However, this fight wasn't like the other fights. I heard someone's bare feet running into the kitchen. I heard the clashing of the silverware drawers that fell to the floor. "Put it down, Carol Ann," my father warned. I got out of the bed quietly and tiptoed into the kitchen. Mommy had a knife. They were staring at each other, both of them breathing heavily. "I'm tired of you pulling out that knife on me. You better use it this time, or I'm going to use it on you," my father said. For a second, everything seemed to happen in slow motion. My mother took 2 steps towards my father, the knife out in front of her. When she stepped back, there was a scream. I don't know who it came from, but my father had a look of surprise on his face as he looked down at his bleeding stomach and then at me. My mother threw the bloody knife into the sink and shook her hands as if they were wet. "See what you made me do? See what you made me do, Clyde? Why did you make me do that?" She began to wail, falling down beside him and cradling his head in her lap. I backed out of the kitchen and ran to my bed, pulling the covers over my head. Her wailing filled the apartment. It seeped into all the cracks, chasing out the roaches and rats. It continued to wail in my head long after my father was taken to the hospital and my mother to jail. Miss Anna Mae Johnson, one of the old women in our building, came to sit with us. I sat on the floor near the puddle of blood and rocked back and forth, cradling my brown teddy bear in my arms. Tears had long since dried up, and now all I could do was rock and stare. Rock and stare. Miss Anna Mae got some ammonia and a sponge and began to clean up the blood from the floor. "Everything's gonna be alright. Yeah, be alright." When she noticed me sitting on the floor, she said, "Child, you need to get back in that bed." But I didn't want to move, not ever. I wanted the floor to open, to swallow me whole, to take me away. I felt myself being lifted up and carried back to the bed. There was a pain in my chest, a pain that felt like fire. It pierced my soul to the very core. I had to find a way to be able to go about life, to function as little girls were supposed to, playing with dolls, having make-believe tea parties, playing dress-up. That way, no one would notice that I was dying. I didn't want anyone to see that with each passing day, my soul was surrendering itself to another life. This was a life where there were no mommies and daddies fighting and hurting each other. A life where there were no cussing and men climbing into the window early in the morning to lay with my mother. I wanted a life free from drugs and alcohol. I wanted it so badly, I created it for myself in my mind. However, the fire burned and burned, and it was getting very difficult to pretend anymore. So I stopped. I shut down all functioning mechanisms and just survived.